Bryant Caves. How you doing?
Hey, good man. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really great. I know this ruins the magic of the podcast, but we just finished our conversation with Justin Hornicker talking about Kansas City and barbecue and being horrible kids in school, and it was a lot of fun. I'm pretty stoked.
It was, you know what? It was a really good conversation, really good interview.
Yeah.
He let us know what's up to date in Kansas City because, as Rogers and Hammerstein said, everything's up to date in Kansas City. There's like one person listening to this right now that's like, "Hell yeah, Oklahoma reference."
Hell yes. Gonna
Um,
paint that
and
wagon.
and that's and that's for you, little Oklahoma there. I was in that play in high school, by the way.
Oklahoma, where the
It goes sweeping
sun
down the plains where
plains.
the waving wheat sure smells sweet when the wind comes right behind the rain.
We lied
Uh,
to you. We don't have a show tonight. We're doing the whole Oklahoma show.
I played the villain, Judd Fry.
Judd Fry. Oh
It was
man.
good times. Oklahoma's a classic
Yeah. Yeah.
if you like musicals.
Speaking of classic for the crew is the gold banana kit. Bryant Caves over the weekend. We saw the 2022 edition of the gold banana kit. Using
Mm.
one word, how would you describe this new kit?
Um, I would describe it as scrumtrelescent.
Scrumtrelescent. I set the pins up because I knew you were going to bull a strike.
It's
Let's talk. How do you really feel about this new crew kit, the
I
the
dig it.
gold standard kit?
Yeah, I dig it, man. I think like the crew should have a yellow kit.
Right.
Like I'm one of those people like I didn't hate the gray kit as much as everyone else did last year. I
Mm-hmm.
know most people hated it. I thought there were some cool little design elements to it or whatever, but the crew should absolutely every season should have a gray kit or a yellow kit. Like
Yeah.
there's no that's just, gravity is a thing and the crew have a yellow kit. Like that should be that's just like a law of nature.
uh,
So I think it's pretty cool. Like I like the obviously the bright yellow. I like that they didn't do a full color for the nationwide logo. Like I was wondering if they were gonna like
yeah.
colorize like the nationwide. You know, I used to work there. You currently work there. Like the nationwide blue.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that was gonna happen. Obviously, I love I'm an Adidas guy. Like as relative to shoes as one can be, I guess. I like Adidas. I've always liked Adidas. So like the black stripes on the shoulders are cool, I think. And then the
Those
the
are classic.
black the black neck part.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Collar. Yeah.
collar. Thank you. Good Lord.
the
Easy for me to
black
say.
the
The
black
neck.
neck part.
The neck hole.
I, lo-
That
I
neck
love a good neck part. Let me tell you, when I'm buying a
that
kit, show me the neck part.
give me the neck part. Other than the logo on there, I'm a fan of the new kit. What did you think when you saw it?
It's fine. I think I've shared this on the show before. I'm not one to get like too hyped or too down in the gutter when it comes to like a soccer kit. I think it's a scam anyway that these teams make new kits every year. It's just a way
Oh,
for people to spend more money. It's a
100%.
total like growing up, and this is very get off my lawn. But every year as a kid, like I wasn't thinking, oh man, what's the new Browns jersey gonna be this year? What's the even when you look at old MLS, like they wore the same kits for the first few years. They wore the same thing for the first few years. Look at older teams like Liverpool and stuff like that overseas. Maybe at once sponsorships came in, it changed up a little bit, but you
Right.
you know you're getting pretty much a red kit. It's a yellow kit and it's golden and it's fine. Also the logo. I don't have strong opinions either way. I don't care. It's fine.
I know I'm mostly just throwing red meat to the
to
fake
Eric Neal.
the fake accounts that are now popping up defending the logo and
I
stuff.
muted that conversation. We posted something on Twitter about, and this is how we genuinely feel, because we don't take a lot of things seriously, especially jerseys and logos. I feel like there are a lot of other things to be concerned about.
Yes.
So we went out and said, like, hey, we're indifferent about the logo, but the fact that people hate it with so much vitriol makes us actually like the logo now, because so
I
many
know.
people
I kind of like it. I was accused by our good buddy Pete last week of giving some pretty hipster takes.
Oh my gosh.
And I know
Takes one to know one, Pete.
Pot meat kettle. But yeah, I kind of I kind of like it now, just to be ironic. Like,
yeah, can you be a hipster though if you're doing it on purpose? If you're doing it, like, I feel like hipsterness is subconscious. It's just like part of who you are. This is more like we want to like annoy people. And really, with Eric Neal, 2 Rash Challenges, he bit so hard. And it's hilarious because he read that first tweet. And then the second tweet, I think it was Pete and I who were talking, or we were talking on the Twitter accounts there. And I even mentioned, like, yeah, we're just trying to annoy people like Eric. And Eric got so mad because he saw his name. He was like, no, they got me. We had that steak. We had that steak. Remember that Geico commercial with the fisherman holding the dollar? He has it on the fishing line. He's like, gonna have to be quicker than that. Like, we pulled in a big old bass there.
we're just trolls. Like,
that's what it is.
Everything in politics, conservatives always talking about like triggering the libs. Like, that's, we're triggering the anti-logo people, I think.
Loving the logo to own the libs. That's what it is. But it's great. A lot of people seem to like it. I was at the unveiling and there was a long line of people outside of the door buying the kits. I mean, the old logo, the circle one, that was born out of Anthony Precourt and his snake oil salesman trying to sell the team
Right.
as he was currently owning the team, or trying to move the team. So that logo has some connotations to it that aren't great. The new logo doesn't look as good, but also you have your own team, you have your own stadium. Not even looking outside the world, because you could always easily say, well, there's all these bad things and all these horrible things in the world. You should just be happy with what you have.
We're on the brink of nuclear war, so
But even in just the sports world, if we just focus on the sports world, there are a lot of positives going the way. If you want to be upset about things, that's fine, and you're allowed to be. That's completely okay. But we're just gonna have fun with it.
Triggered much?
Oh my gosh, I think are we turning into a conservative podcast?
100%. I mean, there's more money in it.
That's true. And you don't even really have to have opinions. You just have to ask questions. You just have to ask questions that make other people mad. That's all. That's all Tucker does. He just asks questions, and then people are like, yeah, that makes me angry. That's a good question. And then you form your own opinion. We just need to ask questions of people that already know what their opinion is.
I mean, there's a certain podcaster that Neil Young is a big fan of, who makes that his whole life, is just asking questions. Like, hey, I'm just asking questions here.
Hey, I'm not a racist. I'm just asking the question.
I'm just asking if black people are inferior. Like,
I didn't say it.
I didn't say they were. I'm just asking.
I don't want cancel culture media to come after Brian and me. We're just asking the question. Is it a logo? That's a great question. It is a logo. So let's get logoing into our episode.
Well done.
Welcome, boys and girls, to Brian Me. We're a podcast where we talk about soccer and other things, other podcasty things. Welcome to our show tonight. We're really excited about continuing our NWSL Preview Series. Tonight, we've got Justin Horneker from the Soccer Talking Lads podcast, and also Equalizer Soccer, which is one of the kind of go-to sites that you go to for everything that's happening in the world of NWSL international women's soccer around the globe. So we're really excited to have Justin on here. We spoke with him and his podcast in December of 2020 before the MLS Cup, and it's been way too long from talking with them outside of social media. So we're really glad to have them back. That's really our one track mind tonight. Before we get into that, though, we're going to talk a little bit about those matches that don't have a full segment, but we still want to call them out because, gosh darn it, we love soccer. We love sports, and there's so many sportses to go around that we can't possibly cover them all. Our shows are long enough. Some would say
5 minutes is too long,
long.
I think, for some people, but
maybe. Let's talk about the Liverpools first. Liverpool, because I want to end on a really high note. Now, Liverpool won both matches, so I shouldn't really say like there was a low note here, but they won the Champions League against Inter Milan. They won 2-0 against Inter Milan. And then they beat Norwich City, the fighting Brian Lanois, 3-1. Norwich City did go up 1-0. And then Liverpool scored 2 goals, one of them a bicycle kick, one of them a Mo Salah in the field of like 7 guys scoring goal. And then Luis Diaz, not the crew Luis Diaz, who
I was going to say
is currently shooting into the 12th row. This is Luis Diaz now on the crew or Liverpool, who has done pretty well. He scored a goal. Otherwise in the Liverpool world, on the women's side, they didn't play any matches. They've been off with the international break. But unfortunately, I'm sure you've heard this, Brian. Did you hear anything about the U.S. women's national team match on Sunday?
No.
U.S. women's national team won 5-0, but there was a Liverpool connection in there. They're playing New Zealand. New Zealand gave up 3 own goals, and the 3 own goals were from the same player who plays for Liverpool named Michaela Moore. She is a starting defender on Liverpool, and she had just a rough match traveling from Liverpool over to California and gave up 3 own goals. So apparently the U.S. women's national team is better than Coventry United. But looking at the match, there was a lot of jokes. There was a lot of kind of tearing down, not just her, which she got her fair share of being torn down on the keyboard folks on the internet, but also tearing down the sport in general because of a friendly where own goals happened. It was to the point, like, and this is not because of the internet things, just the match itself. She was on the sidelines, like visibly upset, like crying on the sidelines after this happened. This was also her 50th cap for New Zealand. So it was a pretty, it's not 100 cap, but 50 caps for your senior national team.
Big damn deal. Yeah, absolutely.
And New Zealand's not a slouch when it comes to international soccer, especially in the women's game. I've watched Michaela Moore a ton with Liverpool since she joined the team last season, excuse me. This is definitely a blip. This is an outlier. If you're remembering the She Believes Cup years from now, a single match with Michaela Moore, that's going to be that's pretty pathetic for the people who are going to remember that. Get a life. But she's on a Liverpool side that's up 10 points with a handful of matches left in the season. Looks like could be moving up to the Super League. So I hope all the best for her, and she's an awesome person. I mean, she recorded a video outside of the field, outside of the stuff on the field, on the pitch. She recorded a video for LGBTQ whenever it was in England. I know it's not in June like it is here in the United States. She recorded a video with Klopp where they just talked about her struggles and her coming out as a lesbian woman and walking through what she's gone through. And she's done so much outside of a preseason friendly against the United States national team that I'm not worried that it's going to follow her at all, but she's a great person, and I hope that people get a life.
Don't be an a-hole, guys. Like,
it's not easy. Don't be an a-hole.
Again, don't just, when you think you're gonna make a joke at someone's expense, just, don't.
Shut up. Don't do it. Eat a sandwich instead. I could go for a sandwich right now. Speaking of sandwiches, that's not a segue whatsoever. That's awful. Tottenham played Manchester City. And gosh darn it, Bryant, we're going to go into our interview, which is already a high note. We're going to reach a high note because Tottenham, for the second time this season, beat Manchester City.
Let's go. Is there a, I think I asked you and our good buddy, the better Bryant Leapick, is there a trophy for beating the team that wins the league twice in the same season?
Whoa. Let's not go saying wins the league yet, okay? But that's a huge accomplishment. And let me tell you, I've always loved Harry Kane. Everything he's done, I've always been so appreciative of. I've always been
just your favorite. Just your favorite player.
He's that guy. He's not on my team, but I just love everything that he does, and he's always out there playing hard. Such a clean player. Captain England, he's out there representing the badge. Tottenham went up. It was 2-0, weren't they? Or one.
Yeah,
they were up 2-0.
They were up 2-0. Yeah,
they were up 2-0, and Manchester City comes back. Whenever you're facing the top team in the league, it's hard to hold them back when you have 2 goals, and also 2-0. That's the toughest lead to defend.
most dangerous league in the sport.
Most dangerous lead. So they draw 2-2, and it's a few minutes left in the match. And I'm like, well, there it goes. Don't trust Tottenham. Tottenham's horrible. Of course they're going to do this. They're going to Spurs it up. They did the least Spursy thing I've seen them do. And paint the picture. You're the Tottenham fan, Brian. What happened at the end of that match?
So yeah, they get set up, and Son, that was their 50th connection, by the way, between Kane and Son, back and forth, right? Like that those two have been involved in a goal together, the 50th time. Son just launches this beautiful little cross that Kane flicks in off his head, and the place. Antonio Conte is a blast to watch on the sideline. Like, some managers are very like stoic and very like, okay, nod your head. All right, we won. And you give a little clap, and I think Conte ended up in like the third row of the stadium. Like, I mean, he was just going, he's fun. There's a whole like Spurs Conti cam is like a thing on social media where like anytime they score a goal, you'll like they'll record his reactions to it because he's just so animated. But no, you know what? It's been a rough go of it lately. I mean, losing in the same week to Wolves and to Southampton. So beating the best team in the league, keeping your hopes for potentially sneaking into that Champions League. I mean, it was a big win. Like, I mean, they're sitting in 7th right now.
You could at least get a European spot.
Yeah.
Maybe even if it isn't Champions League, because like Arsenal and Wolves and Man United and Tottenham, they're all playing top 4 as lava, and they're all doing the best that they can to completely avoid it. But
3 games in hand on some of the teams, so still have 3 extra games in there. So
that's
you
true.
Know.
That's true. And also, you say Man City, beating the team who won the league twice in the same season. With that match, with Man City losing, Liverpool's been on a tear. They haven't lost in a good chunk. Liverpool is down 6 points, but we have a game in hand happening Wednesday. If they beat Leeds, they're down 3 points, and the 2 teams play each other again this season. This is, I don't know who I might have been. I don't know who I was texting about this, but the Premier League writers this year, Pulitzer, they're doing well. Man City looked like they were running away, and now all of a sudden you got Liverpool in there. I think Chelsea might be too far gone. This is a 2-horse race. The rest of the teams have kind of fallen, but I think Chelsea's like, okay, stay in the top 4. We can do this. We can stay up here, win the other like auxiliary trophies, which they have to face Liverpool this weekend. But it's It's not a bad race. It's not a bad race. I like it when it's close like this.
No, yeah, I think it's going to be yeah, like you said, we were thinking it was kind of a done deal there for a while, and it was like, well, this race is basically going to be like, all right, who makes top four and who gets relegated, because the
Right.
championship was seen as kind of done and dusted. But yeah, now all of a sudden it's a competitive race again. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, like, can City hold off? Can
Yeah.
Liverpool come in and win? I mean, we'll see. As a neutral, as somebody who really didn't have a dog in this fight, like, I'll
Go
be interested to
Liverpool.
watch it.
That's what you're saying. Yeah, I can hear it in your voice.
No,
Um,
no, I wouldn't say that.
oh wow, you'd root for Man City.
No, I wouldn't root for either team.
Well, that's really great. Let's end on that high note. Let's move into next. We have our interview with Justin Hornicker, which is the main reason that we're here today. Last week we had a lot of fun with Becky Morgan. Tonight had a lot of fun with Justin. I think you're going to really enjoy this interview too. Learn a lot about Kansas City, the team, the city, and other things that you did not care about. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Tonight, we are stoked to include the next member of the Why Did I Do This Show alumni. Our next guest writes for some site called Equalizer Soccer. I've never heard of it. Just kidding. It's on the critically listened to podcast Soccer Talk Lads, STL. Close. The team is coming close. I know St. Louis is getting their MLS club real soon. And also he runs a lot. I mean like a lot.
I do, yeah.
He's run more this week than both Bryant and me have run in all of 2020. Venture to say probably most of 2021 also. Can you confirm, Brian?
Yeah. If the answer to that is any, then yeah, you've done more than I have.
So now he's running through the ringer that is being on Brian and me. It's Justin Hornicker, and he's here to talk about the Kansas City Current. It's coming. Justin, how are you doing? It's been over a year since we talked off of social media.
It's been a while, yeah, and I was excited. We loved having you both on Soccer Talk Lads podcast, critically acclaimed, as you said, by us. We do.
I said critically listened. I said critically listened to.
I can neither confirm nor deny, but I'm excited to be on this side of the podcast.
It's fun. Like, we were there for the MLS Cup for Crew fans. This is probably the only time we're going to hear it talk about the Crew. This episode, I know they start playing in a few days, but yeah, it was a lot of fun being on the show.
Whole rebrand ago, I believe.
Yeah, that was the whole like 3 logos ago. But I just want to go on record. I think both Brian and me predicted that the Columbus Crew were going to win the 2020 MLS Cup. And I think that was what motivated them, right, Brian? Yeah.
No, 100%. I'm taking personally all of the credit.
Yeah. Yeah, he tried to steal the trophy, but now he's not allowed.
Yeah, I believe, and don't go back and re-listen to the podcast, please. But I do believe I was on your side as well, if I'm remembering correctly.
It sounds great. I'll believe it.
So we'll start off with our first question. It's a question we always ask everybody. So because I'm a comic book nerd, I always ask it this way. Every superhero kind of has their origin story. Spider-Man with the radioactive spider. Superman's from another planet. What's your superhero origin story for soccer? How'd you get involved with the sport? How'd you start covering the sport? And what made you fall in love?
Yeah, I mean, like, my soccer journey goes back to, like, my dad used to watch like early Manchester United games all the time, and like I remember like being a kid, and that was like my sole exposure to soccer for the most part, outside of video games, of course. I'm a big FIFA head just in general. But like, I think we talked about this when you guys were on our podcast. Like, St. Louis is such just a like youth soccer hotbed that like everyone in the city plays soccer. So like growing up, that's what you did. You played soccer, even though I wasn't necessarily like as familiar about it because I wasn't very good with like the pro game. But I enjoyed the sport, and I was a high school and college athlete. I ran cross country and track and field, if you didn't get that from the intro. And that's when I kind of got like more immersed in just like soccer culture. My roommate was on the men's soccer team. He was actually from Liverpool, so I would watch like Premier League games because he would watch for Liverpool. I'd like needle him with Manchester United facts because this was Fergie's last year, so this is like the last time that they were.
Oh,
good.
last time they were good. Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
A whole like before the soap opera started, and then from there I was still like mainly watching the men's side outside of like the Women's World Cup, right? Like everyone is familiar with those teams. I would say I wasn't like heavily involved with my NWSL fandom until maybe like not Challenge Cup year, but the year before the Challenge Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And then like obviously with all the intrigue with NWSL being like one of the first teams back post-pandemic, or during the pandemic, I should say, pre-pandemic even, if you will. And then just going through the roller coaster of the league it's been through the past 2 years. Like when I started paying attention to NWSL, like writing about NWSL, because I was kind of a little bit disenchanted with track and field journalism. On top of it was during the pandemic and there was no track and field, but there was like women's soccer and just like those kind of stories, sports stories also. And then to the point where Deloy Hansen does a bunch of stuff he shouldn't have done and is forced to sell his team. Kansas City ownership group buys it, moves it back to Kansas City. The rest is history from there. But
I remember those days when NWSL used to force owners to sell their team.
Yeah, that was cool, right?
for doing awful things.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Those were the days. That's awesome. What school did you go to?
So it's a small school in St. Louis. It's called Fontbonne. It's like right across the street from Washington University, if you're more familiar with them. Like right smack dab in the middle of the city, right by Forest Park, this is like beautiful. It has a 7-mile long track, like running track that goes around it. And then if you were to paint out the map of where that is compared to the STL City Stadium, it's like 2 miles west of where the stadium is going to be. So like right in the heart of the city there. Yeah.
That's like a warm up for you. That 2 miles is like a warm up. Yeah, for sure.
We used to, our long runs would be like from school down to the Arch Grounds and back, and it was like 11 miles. But
and I mean, and now
that's college track and field for you. It's not.
Well, it's weird. Like I know a lot of folks who've been in college field, like, and I did not until the last few years, and now I just keep meeting people who did college running or college cross country and stuff like that. So it's fun.
And we're D3, so like D3 is fun because you're not getting like any sort of benefit from doing it. It's like a bunch of people who just love to run who either aren't good enough to go D1 or D2, or like just kind of like that environment anyway. Like I wanted to stay close to home. I wasn't going to go to SLU because I just like didn't have that talent, nor is the program really what I wanted to be a part of. And like that's why I went to Fontbonne.
Yeah. And St. Louis University, I mean, they, like you talk about the youth soccer, their college program there, at least like on the men's side, I think they had 3 or 4 guys picked this year in the MLS, which is
they were really like tied. I want to say with like all time, like they're tied with the all-time most people drafted from the same team, like in the MLS Super Draft. So it was a good year for them. They had a good year last year too, and like the men's and women's teams were both pretty like solid, and that's a program to pay attention to on both sides.
That's awesome.
That's the Billikens, right?
The Billikens, yeah.
What is a Billiken?
So it's it's basically like a knockoff leprechaun. Like the story goes that like when the Jesuit priests went to Ireland was like, these leprechauns are freaking cool. How do we make this our mascot? And then they came back and made a blue and white leprechaun, basically. I used to think it was a Buddha statue when I was like a kid.
Well, a Billiken leprechaun, like you kind of see at the end there, like there was some dude like, okay, William, you have to rebrand this. You have to rebrand this leprechaun, and you have until Friday. And then he hears his boss walking down the hallway. He's like, William, Billiken. It's a Billiken.
I got it.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, well, that's good stuff. We're not here to talk about the history of the Jesuits and Billikens and all that. But we want to talk about get into, and I love it because the thing is, we could hop down the rabbit trails all day, but this is an NWSL preview.
Yeah, it's dangerous for me. I'm not the one to keep myself on track on our podcast.
No,
so.
Neither are we. Neither are we. We usually start grabbing, attention around hour 3, and then we're like, okay, good, Great. We're good. So let's talk about the Kansas City Current. So far this offseason, it's kind of been pretty boring for
Oh
Kansas
yeah,
City. Yeah, you
nothing really
only
happening much.
I mean, outside of add French last year, trading in the middle of the season there, but you also added a couple players like a Sam Mewiz and Lynn Williams, I think. Right?
Yeah,
Is that Mewiz?
Mew-Eyes, I think. Yeah, you're around there.
Mui, it's S is silent. So to you, joking aside, I mean, you bring in a goalkeeper from the U.S. national team, and then you bring in one of the best midfielders in the world when she's playing for England, and then England rates her much lower whenever she comes back to the United States. And Sam Mewis, and you have one of the best forwards in the world with Lynn Williams. How which move do you think, and not just the ones I shared, it could be any of those names, a deep cut, B-side move that you saw. What is going to be the move with the biggest impact, you think, for Kansas City this year?
I think looking at that team last year, they never really had a forward who could put balls in the back of the net. Like that was the problem for that team all year long. Once they, like, in the middle of the year, they didn't have goals because they couldn't bring the ball out from the defense to the midfield to Amy Rodriguez, who was playing in her final season and looked like it. It was a rough start, but like adding Lynn Williams, who is someone who can put balls in the back of the net at every level she's ever played in, that's a move that is going to pay dividends, I think, when you're, goal scoring is at a premium.
Mm-hmm. And no, that's huge. That makes total sense. And you add like Sam Mewis, whenever she had injury issues last year, and she's had some injury issues over the last year and a half or so. But when she's healthy, she's best midfielder in the world. And you put her next to like a Lola Bonta, and you have a pretty solid midfield there.
Yeah, and like Desiree Scott coming back too is huge. She is just like, I always think of her as like when the ball gets around her, she's a black hole, like sucking it in and not letting anyone take it off her. So like that's an important part to add, because you have the defensive solidity, and then you also have someone like Sam Mewis who can just bridge that gap so beautifully.
Yeah. Those positions like the six, and being able to distribute and pass around and keep the ball, draw in fouls and stuff like that. That's something that when the team is doing well, it's key to how they do it. And if the team's not doing well, usually the best ones in the league are still performing really well. And that's how it was last season. Kansas City, like you mentioned, they had a rough year. They also had 3 months to get a season put together in a team.
I think it was less than that even. I need to look it up, but from the announcement that the Longs were buying the team to like actually having a roster at the Challenge Cup, I think it is less than 3 months. And during that, they also had to find like a stadium situation, which wasn't ideal, but is what they could do with such little notice.
Yeah, it's. I think it's going to be exciting. It looks like at the end of last season, it even felt like some of the results were going their way. They finally won matches. I think it was in the last month they won all their matches that they had, and that was before you add these other key parts, like you mentioned. Williams is the big name, so I wouldn't be shocked next year if they're competing much higher up. I think last week they would maybe put them in the same kind of group as Louisville, or right in that same area of team that if they made the playoffs, I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah.
I think I'm willing to, I know we're going to get to predictions later on, but I think I'm willing to take that a step further. I think adding a player like a Sam Mewis and a Lynn Williams, those types of that caliber of players on top of what they had, I think they're a top half team this season.
Yeah, I still have worries like with where the defense is.
Sure.
Like that's a big issue. Like now it's kind of opposite of where it was last season, where they had a solid back four, but everything else was iffy until Victoria Pickett started playing well. And that's like maybe where I hesitate on like how good is this team really, but just with pieces all over the field that they didn't have last year. Like you lose Kiki Pickett and picking up Sam Mewis, but Kiki Pickett was definitely a work in progress, even though like she was part of the reason they were playing well like at the end of the year last year.
Yeah.
But Sam Mewis, I think, is like double the impact of what Kiki Pickett playing in her second year would give you.
I've seen people, before we kind of talk about the front office and the organization, I've seen folks on the internet, and folks that I respect their opinion. I wouldn't just quote people who are crazies on the internet, but Kansas City looked like they were making a lot of maybe short-term moves. they were making big moves where you're losing youth, you're losing younger players, maybe right out of college, who have that upside ceiling. You don't know where the ceiling is going to be, for bringing in maybe some more established names that not only play really well, but coincidentally also you can market, you can sell tickets, you can get people coming out to the games, especially, with a new stadium coming up. What do you kind of think about the short term versus long term? Do you think that it's sustainable making changes like this, or do you think that these are also partly long term? You just maybe sacrifice a little bit of 3 or 4 years down the road.
Yeah, I think just to take you through like the mindset of this team, like with where they were last year, it was kind of a like fake start, if you will, like especially at the start of the year. Everyone was just excited to have a team to go cheer, even if it's not in an ideal situation and a terrible place to watch a soccer game. But knowing that
a baseball field isn't a great place to watch a
baseball
soccer
field
match,
with like tarped over areas, and it was not great, but it was cool in an intimate way. It wasn't something I'd enjoy all the time, but like with where we were last year and knowing that like this is the start of something, and it really started to feel that way, especially like as you get later into the year. They announced the practice field, they make the A-Rod trade, they do a lot of things that do, to your point, signal like a youth, like we're going to get skilled youth talent that in 2 years, 2, 3, 4 years will be good, but it's going to be a growing process until then. And then to this year, I almost think, like me reading between the lines, is they want to get to the point where now they're playing in a bigger stadium in Children's Mercy for the year, and that next year opening the new stadium at the riverfront. And I think they kind of want to like hit the ground running in year 3 of the team. So like I think they are maybe sacrificing like 4 or 5 years down the line, knowing they'll be in a different position than they'll be this year or next year.
Makes sense.
I mean, also let's not discount the addition of Chicago Red Stars legend Cassie Miller.
She
backup keeper, man. She stepped up last season. Like that's the way she stepped up playing behind Alyssa Nair. Like that's not, and then had to step in obviously when Nair had that gruesome injury in the Olympics.
If O'Hara got that yellow card the championship game, we might be talking about a different outcome there. If the ref actually gave her a card and wasn't afraid of her, we might have had a different outcome to that match.
Well, you guys know like how
it's okay.
Yeah. Like how important your backup keeper is. Like when someone like AD Franch or Alyssa Nair, who get those national team call-ups often, like you need a backup keeper who can step in when you have those like odd games where someone's on national duty and can't play.
Yeah, right. For sure. I think, like you said, it is exciting. And that was a perspective that honestly makes a lot of sense, where they're moving into a larger stadium, an MLS stadium, for a year as they build another stadium. That makes a lot of sense to look at that year 3 as, okay, this is when we want it all to click. You want to compete in a new stadium. You want to bring people in and keep people in. And the one way you do that in America, especially in soccer, is you got to win. Yeah.
And I think like this group in general, especially with Hugh Williams still having such a big say in how the team is built, they still look at themselves as the architects of like those FC KC teams, I think, and like look at themselves as a front office who kind of knows how to build like a winning roster. Yep. So like I think they do ship out those short-term options knowing that they'll be able to build it again.
Okay. Yeah.
So speaking of front offices, as I try to talk on mute,
good segue. There we go.
Yeah, something that seems out of place in the NWSL right now is a competently run organization. We may have talked about that a time or two on the show. So right now, Kansas City is pretty much the beacon of what to do right in the NWSL. I mean, new stadium coming, their logo is rad. They brought in a coach with, national team history, genuinely seem to care about like building a winning franchise there. So kind of what are your impressions of the team as somebody who is a fan, lives there, sees it day in, day out? What's your impressions of kind of the team in the front office? I know we've talked about it a little bit already, but.
Yeah, pretty high. I mean, they haven't really put a foot wrong this whole entire process. They've been like very transparent in the open that the playing situation wasn't ideal, but they're just focused on getting the team back and getting something up and running. And then they're also like open in the knowledge of, hey, we want to have a training facility, we want to have a stadium, we want to have like our own setup, so we're not relying on Sporting KC and the men's teams and like at the whim of their roster and their schedule. And they delivered on both those things like in spades, and that the new stadium, if you guys have seen the render, is fantastic. It's right along the Missouri River right here, hence the name of the team now. But it just like everything they've said they're going to do, they have done for the most part. And it's very encouraging. And I was listening to your guys' conversation last week about kind of Louisville and their front office and just like the direction of the NWSL. But I think you have a team in the KC Current and their ownership group and everything they built, and you have a pretty good blueprint of what to do going forward. And like if you think about the number of teams worldwide that have an own training ground and like actual stadium for their women's setup is pretty rare in world football.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we support Tottenham and Liverpool overseas, and then like it seems like an organization that's looking beyond Kansas City. I think I shared this maybe last week, or if it was off the air, but Chicago almost seems like almost like a mob. The ownership, it's like we're local to Chicago. Our players are coming from Chicago. We're running the youth scene, and then you see it kind of confirmed with the horrible things that Rory has done and all the things that were connected to the team for years. Kansas City is not like, no, first they jump in out of nowhere, like, okay, we'll buy the team. Folks who had not owned a team before. It's not the old FC Kansas City owners. These are not this is a brand new ownership group, and they're about making this thing huge. And it's the stadium was, I think the day they released the stadium, I was like, hey, I'm coming to your house. We're gonna go to your house and stay at your house because we want to see the stadium. It looks, if you see these teams investing, and like you mentioned too, it's not like there's a men's side. Also, Louisville is doing a great job. They also started on the USL men's side. They started on the men's, and but also it doesn't feel like that they're just bringing Racing Louisville along for the ride. It seems like two distinct environments. Here in Kansas City, it's just the Kansas City Current, and I think that's fantastic.
I think great. They wanted it to be that way too, because part of the demise with FC KC to begin with was the relationship between them and Sporting and trying to like get a playing surface, because originally they were playing games at CMP and then it wasn't available and they had to play at Shawnee Mission East, which is this high school in suburbs in Kansas.
Playing pro soccer at a high school is not ideal.
Yeah.
It's disrespectful is what it is. But what do I know? I mean, I just make podcasts. Before we get into the predictions, before we get into the Ask Bam segment, we have a repeat question from last week. You listened to this, so you already know what's coming. He is a former Red Stars fan. Why should he choose Kansas City as his new team? What's your sales pitch? What's your sell?
Yeah, so it's we obviously talked about some of it earlier, but let's talk about the front office a little bit. And this is a team who, isn't going to the well of old, used coaches elsewhere. They're not going to the well of Kansas City local like the Red Stars are. They brought in Ella Massar and Camille Levin to be in the front office as well. Ella being an assistant coach with everything she's done to be able to land her is incredible. And then you also look at a team who is kind of starting their culture from scratch as well. There's not a huge team culture. It's, the logo is brand new. The team's only been around for 1 year. There's not additional baggage from other teams, other pasts. And, you're starting something new with an exciting team that'll be fighting for a playoff spot. You have Canadian and USA national team members all over the field. And it's an exciting time to be a follower of the team.
I like it.
We'll see if I want to support or not.
Also, good barbecue in Kansas City. So, you can visit Kansas
Pretty
City.
Good. It's pretty good.
Get down there, have some barbecue. I mean, I know Frank lives in the South. He's He's got to be a barbecue guy. So I'm sure he could enjoy some.
We'll go to Slaps. It'll be great. Yeah.
Well, that might be an answer to a question later on. That might be an answer there. That's good.
Okay.
I went Dateline a little bit there. Sorry.
So we'll move on to kind of the most fun part of our show. This is the Ask Bam segment. It's kind of a cage match of nothingness.
Yeah.
Throw in some KC questions. I'm gonna differ from the outline here for just a moment. This week, the Frank Barker Memorial Ask Bam segment is not brought to you by the kids that tested kicks and their mother approved it, as mentioned by Thomas. Frank did mention that this week is brought to you by Snap.
No, we don't mention what Frank says. Don't give him the airtime, okay? That's why I didn't choose Snap or Crackle or Pop. I went completely different direction. This Ask Bam segment is sponsored by the kids who tested kicks and the mothers who approved it. That's it.
Is Mikey sponsoring it next week?
I don't know what to believe.
Mikey likes it. Is that kicks or is that checks?
That's life.
Life.
Twix?
That's life. That's life. Is this Frank now? Are you doing Frank Sinatra?
That's what some people say. All right.
Just tell me what cereal to buy and it'll be good.
All of them. There's really not bad cereal.
There really isn't. There really isn't. Well, like grape nuts, but outside of that, there really isn't.
Yeah.
I can jive with grape nuts too.
All right.
As I get older, you need to make sure you stay regular, folks. Bam cares.
So we'll start off with our good friend Derek Helling, who is going to ask an obscure music question
with a music video.
Yeah, he included a music video for the classic band Kansas, Point of No Return. Of the Kansas songs I know, that's not one of them.
Me either.
Me as well.
Either.
As he asks, has anyone ever cried with fear just from finding a message in a bottle?
I feel like I do know. I did Derek a disservice, and I apologize to you, Mr. Helling. I didn't listen to it, but I feel like I know this song. I feel like I know it. I'm gonna play it. I'm not gonna play it in the episode because I'm very big on copyright infringement. And
from the album title Point of No Return, it's where Dust in the Wind is on. I'm sure I've heard this song before.
Okay, I know Dust in the Wind. Dust in the wind.
All we are is dust.
Gotta say, I'm not hip on my Kansas discography though. So
yeah, it's like I know Dust in the Wind, and then Carry On My Wayward Son.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's about the extent of my Kansas knowledge. I have an uncle though who's like a massive Kansas fan. Like still.
You talked about him before. Yeah,
he recently took my dad to a Kansas concert like last year.
It impresses me that they're still doing concerts. I can't believe that. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, they're still out there, man. Kansas still out there kicking ass, I guess.
Kicking names and taking ass. I always get confused because there's so many different city, state name bands. I think of Boston. Yeah, Boston's the one that I think about. Chicago is even a band. It's unoriginal, but I'm like, Kansas, why do they have a band? No offense to Kansas.
We can give all the offense to Kansas. It does not matter. Offense to Kansas.
I was going to say he's a Missouri. He's a Missouri guy.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually don't venture into Kansas much in general. I live in downtown KC, and everything I do is within 2 or 3 miles from where I live. So
that's hashtag goals.
Is there a legit do the Kansas City, Kansas people not like the Kansas City, Missouri people? Is that really a thing? Or
I think it's more it's more like college allegiances because it's between Kansas and Missouri. That's always been a long time sports rivalry, and then just general snobbery because for the most part, the wealthy counties are in Kansas, and not to say that the Missouri side doesn't have nice neighborhoods also, but for the most part, the richer parts of Kansas City are on the Kansas side. So that's where you kind of get the snobbery towards the other side. If you're
I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, and then if you're from Missouri, you just know that you're better. So that's
wow. Do the Kansas City folks side say, oh, that side's Missouri City? I feel like maybe they have some connection because it's
maybe
called
that's
Kansas City.
Maybe.
I'm sure I'm not. I guarantee I'm not the only person who's created that joke. But that Kansas song, I do know that song because it's got a crazy keyboard riff.
Okay.
As I walked, I walked to the point of no return.
Oh yeah, I totally know that song. Okay.
I'm
There's
playing
a
a visual keyboard with one hand. I look like Thing.
It's working for
from
me.
Adam's Family. Yeah.
there we've talked one of the topics we talked about on the show is past Sports Center commercials.
Hmm.
And there's a Sports Center commercial with that song where I could be wrong, but I think it's Rich Eisen, which tells you how far back it goes on Sports Center, where he's like warming up in the car to that song, like to get him hyped up.
I remember that. Yeah.
So we do know all that. We all do know this. All of us know that song, Derek. Thank you so much for remembering or helping us remember. I can talk the words really well tonight. Thank you for helping us remember that great hit by Kansas.
Hey, Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s.
I'm Casey Kasem. Sorry.
So our good buddy Homer asks, would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 1,000 duck-sized horses?
I thought about this often. I think 1,000 duck-sized horses, because I feel like the strength ratio isn't there, and I like my chances against a bunch of weaker beings than one just really strong duck.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm also going to add one other thing. Ducks in general are mean. Like they're aggressive. Like we used to have ducks in our apartment complex and one we lived in, and they were like aggressive. Like they'd come after you. So like you get ducks that are naturally like mean, and then now they're the size of a horse.
That's
and
terrifying.
They've got that horse strength. No,
they can fly and land on the water. You can't hide.
No, you can't get away from it. You
ducks.
can't outclimb it. You can't outswim it. Yeah, you're toast.
Like I haven't seen any mean ducks in our neighborhood. Whenever we see ducks, they just like kind of waddle around and they don't do too much. But geese. Now, if there was a horse-sized goose, I'm nuking it because geese are evil. I've said this before and I'll say it until I die. I believe that all animals created for a purpose. There's some sort of positive that animals bring to the ecosystem, the world around it, except geese. Spawn of Satan. No positive comes from having geese. They taste
get
good.
Real
They're angry.
Territorial. So like in St. Louis, there's River de Pear, which is like this kind of stream that backs up from the Mississippi, but also used to be where we put our trash. When you run along it, because there's like this green area like on the side, so you can run on it, and there's oftentimes just like a herd of like 20 geese that will not let you pass whatsoever. And like one time we were on a big group run in high school, and one of the guys just like went for it, and he got bit on the shoulder blade by one of the bigger
shoulder blade.
Yeah.
Dang, I was expecting like the ankle, but you're like, no, that goose
got up.
Oh my god,
that goose came out. See, I am so pro foie gras right now. Like,
even the food, it tastes slimy. Even geese taste slimy. There's nothing good that geese can bring in the world.
I've had good goose.
Well, you are I think Southerners can probably cook it better than us Northerners can, because most of us don't use seasoning.
That's
right.
That's completely fair.
Yeah.
All right. So Robbie Rogers asks, if you could play shuffleboard with any current KC player, who would it be and why?
I think I just want to play games with Sam Ewis in general. Yeah. Just seems really fun.
That sounds fun. I maybe when one of them turns 80, Robbie, I'll play shuffleboard with them, but I don't.
Yeah, you're gonna get smoked.
Yeah, any of these athletes, you play them. Like when you talk to athletes, they're competitive about everything. I would be destroyed in shuffleboard for sure.
Is he also? I want to clarify, and he can confirm this with us at a future date. When he says shuffleboard, are we talking the old person beach game with the stick?
That's what I'm picturing, if I'm wrong.
Cruise ships. Yeah, I'm thinking the cruise ship game.
Are we talking, because there's also, shuffleboard is also a bar game with the long table, and it's got the sand, you put the sand on it, and you like have the little ball looking thing. Like Land Grant has the shuffleboard table inside the tap room in Columbus. Like I like, actually my office randomly in our break room has a shuffleboard table for some reason. But I like that shuffleboard. But yeah, like the old people one with like the long stick and the little hockey puck thing. Like I'm not into that.
That's what I was thinking, but I also don't get out much with all the hundreds of kids in my house. I don't remember how many I have. I don't get out a ton to play the other shuffleboard. So all my only perspective of shuffleboard is sitcoms from the 90s on a cruise ship, and that's what shuffleboard lived in my brain. So Robbie, I'm sorry, maybe they don't want to play when they're 80. Maybe I would still lose to them when they're in their 20s and 30s.
Maybe if you got them, like we're talking bar shuffleboard, like maybe if you got one of them like really drunk, you might have a shot.
I'm still putting my money on them. Like I have no athleticism. Like my wife and I joke, like she's not athletic at all. Like I say I have no athleticism, she has even less, and she will say that too. But games like bar games stuff like Pop-A-Shot, I love basketball. Like she destroys me in Pop-A-Shot every time. I don't know how she does it. I'm just not good at I'm good at like board games and stuff like that. You can ask Bryant.
What player would you play Pop-A-Shot against?
Oh my gosh. Not a goalkeeper because they use their hands. I need somebody who doesn't any of the other 10 outfield players. I'll pick one of them.
Somehow they probably, because especially these are probably all like specialized athletes, but a lot of people like also probably played, like a lot of these players probably also played basketball or also played,
multi-sport athletes,
ran track, or also like did, whatever other sport. Like, yeah, Pop-A-Shot's weird because my wife, Alyssa, played high school basketball and I'm better at Pop-A-Shot than she is.
It's like you can't have an arc on it, which if you like actually played basketball is kind of hard to not do. So I understand that kind of.
I'm trying to teach my kids, and we have the little Fisher Price basketball hoop in the living room, because that's how we roll. And I'm trying to help my 12-year-old. Well, she doesn't want to play organized basketball, but I'm like, hey, we have this hoop inside. Let's do it. I try to teach her, like, you got to make a rainbow. You got to make a rainbow. You got to make an arc, into the basketball hoop. And she just takes it. And it's just like a laser. She's like, yeah, and she throws it, and it's like half of the time she makes it. But I'm like, no,
Pop-A-Shot.
You got to do the rainbow. Maybe she's just training to be a Pop-A-Shot, and I should just shut the hell up and get out of her way.
Yeah, unless you're Joakim Noah.
We don't talk about Joakim Noah. Okay, this is an anti-Joakim Noah podcast.
The ugliest free throw shot I've ever. It like curved somehow.
Yeah, that was rough to watch him play basketball for the most part.
He hated Cleveland so much, I'm fine with never talking about him again. Next question.
Another animal question here. Who would win a fight, 100 ostriches or one megalodon, assuming the shark can go on land and the ostriches can swim?
Ostriches are mean too.
Yeah.
And the 100 of them I feel like could do some real damage, but the megalodon is big.
I'm going Megalodon.
Yeah, I feel like the size advantage, the like sharp teeth, the strength.
If you get the ostriches in water, I think I'm going to pick the home team for whoever has home field advantage. Home field advantage, because if you get an ostrich in the water, you're done. But I think on ground, they're going to be much faster than the Megalodon. So I also
picture the ostriches being able to kind of like form groups as well and hunt you down that way.
Yeah,
and I don't
flying
like that
V, yeah, like Mighty Ducks, yeah.
Are ostriches smart?
That maybe taught me anything.
That movie taught me anything. Is that flying V would sure be dangerous with ostriches.
Are ostriches smart? Do we know this? Like, are they a smart animal? Or
they stick their head underground. They seem pretty.
Yeah,
stupid.
They're not terribly smart.
Okay.
Any ostrich people out there, please let us know in our DMs or
I should know this. I have a bio degree, but it was not specialized in ostriches, unfortunately.
I've heard ostriches.
The class fills up quickly. Are they tasty? They seem like they would be kind of goose.
People eat them. I know, like people.
I've heard it's
have
good.
To be good in some way.
Actually, I worked at a Fuddruckers. I think we had ostrich burgers.
Fuddruckers and ostrich burgers?
I think they had ostrich and like buffalo burgers, like bison burgers.
I don't know what that place is.
Bison's good. No, I feel like I've heard ostrich is like a cross between like chicken and almost like beef. Like it's almost like a red meat, kind of like beef.
Kind of like swordfish is like steak and seafood together.
Mm-hmm. Swordfish
is good. I could eat some swordfish. Do they have swordfish in in Kansas City? Do they?
Not usually. I've not seen it very many places. I
Uh,
don't usually trust seafood in Kansas City. I know it's
that's-
not an issue.
What are you
but...
talking about? You're on a river. What are you talking about? They don't have any swordfish in the Missouri. That's a joke.
Like, I know you can freeze seafood and it's fine, but I just don't trust how quick it got here.
I live in Columbus, Ohio. I lived in Canton, Ohio before. I still ate swordfish and it was good, Justin. Okay, don't judge.
I know. I'm sorry.
Go to a bonefish grill. It won't.
Just don't do that when you're on the coast.
No, don't go to bonefish grill when you're in Florida or something. God forbid.
I'll never forget. We went to Miami for a wedding, and the hotel we stayed at was right behind a Red Lobster.
Nice.
And that Red Lobster was always full.
Oh my gosh. Well, you don't get those Cheddar Bay biscuits at those local places.
Accurate. But man,
there's so much good food in Miami too, to think that any Red Lobsters are being eaten at.
Yeah. Like, go get some Cuban food, or if you want seafood, like the beach is like 3 miles that way. Like, go get some fresh.
Get a fork and just start jabbing it in the water.
Yeah.
Get something.
I mean, probably you might
Chances
also get
are.
like some cocaine or something with it. Like,
Yeah, she don't lie.
So Mike wants to know, since I am the most important half of the pod, hence my name being in the name, can he step in as a guest when Thomas is sick?
No.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be a no from me.
The show is equally important. Brian's name is in it, but also it's said from the perspective of me, because I'm saying it, Brian and me. Brian and me we are both as equally important in this show. And God no, Mike, will you be on the show in lieu of me or in lieu of Bryant after that NWSL championship? No.
Dead to Thomas here.
No. I need a written apology.
So now we move on to the Frank Barker portion of the
Barber.
of Barber, whichever. We move on to he knows what he did. We move on to the Frank
I
portion
saw these rolling in.
of the Ask Bam Ask Bam segment.
We had like 14 notifications. I was like, that's not right. Oh, Frank is on. Never mind. Frank replied. He woke up.
So we'll start off with this one here. What did you do as a kid in school to get the most trouble?
Probably talking.
Okay. I have a story that involves a parent-teacher conference. Well, I have two stories. One quick one. In middle school, my mom went to a parent-teacher conferences, and all 4 of my teachers were waiting for her in the same room. That was not a good year for me because I just
That's not a good sign.
I didn't do homework or anything. I was not studious. The story I have, though, that got me probably in the most trouble, and I got my mom also in trouble. I was in 2nd grade. I had a teacher named Mrs. Chase. And Mrs. Chase, we had to do rhyming and stuff because that's what you did in 2nd grade back then. Now I think you do like calculus in 2nd grade. And we would make rhymes in the room, and all these kids would always like suck up to the teacher, and they would make a rhyme for Mrs. Chase and something nice about Mrs. Chase. Well, some kids said they would say the first line of the rhyme, then we would make the second line rhyme with the first one. And in 2nd grade, a kid said, "I'll make a pie for Mrs. Chase." And I replied, "And shove it in her face." And I thought it was hilarious because I'm in 2nd grade and I was a class clown. My mom went to the parent teacher conference and like, "Oh, your son, here's what your son said." And he said, "Make a pie for Mrs. Chase." And then your son said, "And shove it in her face." And my mom started laughing in the parent teacher conference, and we both got in trouble. So that was probably the most trouble I was ever in.
I don't know why that got you in trouble. It should not have.
It's hilarious, and I rhymed perfectly. I also got in a fight in middle school, but that kid deserved it.
He had it coming. I think we've heard that story on the show before.
Yeah.
So
He like pulled my hair, and I put it. His name was Ricky Yackee. If there's ever a name of somebody,
Ricky Yackee.
He sounds like somebody you would get in a fight with. Yeah.
Guy's the worst.
I also had a moment of what I thought was brilliant comic timing, but not so much. I had a teacher in middle school who she had been married and divorced like many times. I think she was on like her 4th or 5th marriage. And
5th time's the charm, I always say.
One time in class, she said something about something her husband said, and I asked which one.
That's one of those things like kids say shit and you're like, oh, you should not know that.
I think I was in like the 6th grade or something.
As soon as you said it, I knew it was coming and it didn't matter.
And she was livid.
That's funny.
Oh, Lord of mercy. That's great. I love you so much, Brian.
She talked to so she went to the same church we did. So she like talked to my dad on Sunday at church. And he had to pretend that he was mad. And then he told me later that he thought it was hilarious.
Oh, Mike. Oh, big Mike. That's great. That's great.
So
that story enriched my life. I'm going to tell people that story on behalf of you, Brian. Oh,
I thought you were going to say it was you, like you were going to try and take credit for it.
I'm going to steal that story.
That's fair.
I didn't even go to school. I stole that Mrs. Chase story from somebody else.
I didn't get in trouble in school much. I got in trouble outside of school more, like playing around the neighborhood and stuff. We'd break a lot of things because we just like errantly threw a ball.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's part of being a kid, right?
Yeah, you're playing hockey in the street. You launch a slap shot and it goes into the window. It happens.
Right, exactly. You get a little puck. Yeah, you do a knuckle puck. You can't control the knuckle puck.
Then everyone scatters.
It's hard to be accurate, but it drives goalies crazy. Yeah.
We had an old man that lived like kind of catty corner to me, but we had like in our neighborhood growing up, we had kids like there were like 6 houses in a row that had kids all like the same age, so we were probably just a terror to the neighborhood. We had this old man.
I think it's the Bane. You were a Bane. Yeah. That was the phrase. Yeah.
We used to play baseball from my yard, and like if you hit it hard enough, you would bounce in the street and land on the yards. Obviously, you guys know how yards work. There's an old man, like kind of catty corner, who if you ever landed a ball on his yard, he'd like come out the door, sprint and grab it, and like bring it inside. And we just wouldn't worry about it because no one wanted to deal with it. And eventually we had to get my dad to go over and get all of our balls back because he wouldn't give them back.
What a turd.
Did that guy end up on like Dateline later? Or
I think he was like really crotchety to my dad too. So I think he was just grumpy.
Hating the world.
Yeah, hating the world, old man.
Pissed off old
I'm probably going to be that at one point. No, I think that all roads lead to that for me.
You've seen everything. Like these kids keep making a bunch of noise and you hate them and you're just not going to give them any joy.
I have kids who live 2 houses down from my house, and I have a fence because we got a big old dog, and he ran 2 yards over. So he's in my neighbor's yard against my fence, and my kids are at the neighbor's house on the other side. And he's screaming at my kids for no reason. He's not a friend of my kids. And my dog is at the door and he's like, oh, I need to go outside. There's somebody close to my fence. And I let him out just as I know he's not going to get the kid. The kid's on the other side of the fence. My dog can't clear the fence. Brian knows him too. Rocky's a good boy. He just, if you don't know him, you could be very intimidated by this dog. Yeah. I let him out and he bolts to where the kid is on the fence and he hops onto the fence. Like he puts his 2 paws on it.
Yeah.
The kid, he urinated himself, I'm sure, because he ran away and I've never seen him come back to my fence again. So I'm going to be
terrified of your house now.
I'm going to be the crotchety old man one day. Go get him. I'm just going to get a dog just to scare people.
Thomas, I'm picturing you as like Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino minus the racism.
Conservative white supremacy racism,
yeah. Minus like the racial slurs. Like obviously you're not an old racist guy, but just like the old crotchety, like mean.
Yeah, your dog's gonna be like that dog from Sandlot, just misunderstood.
He's a good pupper. His ears just perk because he's watching me. He's like, "What? He said my name.
He knows we're talking about him.
Good boy."
So here's another Frank question: what flavor Dum Dum do you think would work best in a glass of liquor? He said butterscotch and whiskey is the best he's had. He's looking for other combo suggestions. That sounds delicious, and I'm going to try that because I'm a big fan of butterscotch.
That does sound delicious.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
I would bet like the fruity ones would probably work out well if you did it with like vodka maybe or gin. Yeah, you did like one of the blueberry ones in a gin. I don't know.
Why don't you?
I don't know how you're doing this. I can't tell you how to.
You could do like a pineapple one inside like a margarita or something
Ooh.
like that too.
Or pineapple one and rum. That'd probably be
Hey,
delicious.
Rumpelstiltskin? Yeah. Yeah. That would be real good. That sounds good.
Rumpelstiltskin was a good man.
Rose says also drink Yoo-Hoo. Also love Yoo-Hoo. We're just quoting. I quoted Big Daddy for no reason. When you said rum, I think because he asked the kids, "Oh, you like some rum?" And the kids say, "Rumpelstiltskin." He's like, "Yeah, Rumpelstiltskin."
I haven't watched that movie in so long. I probably need to rewatch it at some point.
Because he thinks the kindergarten kids, preschool kids are drinking booze, and he's afraid that his kid's gonna get bad habits from these other preschool children. It's an adequately rated Adam Sandler movie. I think it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
It's top half, but there's a clear like there's a lot of bad on that list.
I'm sure, yeah. A lot of it does not age well either. It's no.
I would say Big Daddy though. I think it holds up. I watched it. I think like last year or something. Big Daddy holds up. Justin, go watch it after this.
Okay, I'll go watch it.
You don't have to listen to me.
I'll judge for myself.
Thank you.
Another Frank Barber question here. Is there a better vendetta story than The Count of Monte Cristo?
I heard one, or I read one on the internet. So this guy, this is about the Avengers movie, and maybe this picked up some steam. This was when Endgame came out, so a couple of years ago. Whenever the first Avengers comes out, or the Infinity War, some dude like spoils the movie on the internet. It's some guy that spoiled the movie for him on the internet and I don't know how it got ruined. I don't remember all the details of that part, but so he befriended this dude and they started talking on the internet. They became friends over like the next 2 years and stuff. And he did it all because when the Avengers Endgame came out, he like recorded pieces of it and sent it to him and told him everything that happened and ruined the entire movie for him. That was a really good vendetta story that's set in not, the friggin' 1400s, Frank.
Maybe Sin City is a pretty good vendetta story.
Sin City, that's a good movie, yeah.
I like the first one that popped in my head was Kill Bill.
Yeah, that in the same vein, yeah.
Yeah, Wiggle Your Big Toe. Yeah, that's a good one.
Or Gladiator.
Ooh, oh man, this stuff.
If we're talking about Quentin Tarantino, does Django Unchained count as a vendetta movie?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it was more like he was trying to find somebody. It wasn't a vendetta as much. It was
vendetta wasn't the sole plot of the movie, I guess.
Right. No,
does V for Vendetta count? Or is that not really?
I think it's in the name.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think it's better. I don't think it's better.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Your story about the Avengers Endgame thing reminded me of that South Park episode, which is the GOAT South Park episode of Scott Tenorman Must Die. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, yeah, and then he drinks he licks his tears because he kills Scott Tenorman's mom at the end of the movie.
It makes him eat it
in chili.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
So that he'll cry in front of Radiohead. So
that's probably the last time I've seen South Park.
I forgot
was that was the last time that I've seen South Park. So it shows you how long that show was. That's like a first or second or third season, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's an early one, but it's
an early.
It's a GOAT for a reason. Like
some of those early South Park seasons are like all time good TV.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That was good.
So Frank asks, which modern giant monster movie is the best? Godzilla, King Kong, etc.
I haven't seen any recent ones. I like Godzilla better. I do like Godzilla better than King Kong. I think Godzilla has more life to it than King Kong did. King Kong was kind of single, like one-dimensional,
Yeah, I was a big like Godzilla vs. Mothra fan, like of those movies. So
like, the old really bad ones are the best.
Yes.
With like a giant, just a guy in like a giant rubber suit.
And like you can tell that the city is all made out of cardboard and
but they tried, they tried.
They did. And then you appreciate it.
There are like random Japanese children singing at one point for some reason.
That's what I always say.
I'm not the biggest fan of like monster movies in general. I don't know. Something about that plot device just like doesn't keep me captivated, but in the old ones that you can tell, like you can kind of have fun while you're watching it in that way.
They really stick to it though, Hollywood. I mean, you had the Matthew Broderick Godzilla in the late 90s, and you have the 13 from Stranger Things. She's in the newest Godzilla, and it's like they keep bringing them back. They keep bringing 11, 13, 11. I was too off.
I don't know why. I just 13.
This is like it's been a while since Stranger Things is out. Okay,
those were good though. Like the
they're not bad.
I thought so. The new like Godzilla and King Kong, or the Godzilla versus Kong. Like they are what they are. Like they're not. This is not like award-winning Oscar bait cinema, but it's something you can kind of throw on and turn your brain off and kind of have fun. That or the other one that popped in my head was Pacific. Did you see Pacific Rim?
Yes, it's very much of that same things exploding just to explode.
Giant robots fighting like giant Godzilla-ish monsters. Directed by Guillermo del Toro.
The King Kong with Jack Black was awful. That movie sucked.
Oh yeah,
maybe that's I think that's what soured me on monster movies for a little while.
They were trying to make it like the classic King Kong, and we don't need that. The Godzilla in the 90s, that one was good. We want stuff blowing up, and we want better graphics with it blowing up. That's it. That's it. We don't need that.
Also,
I'm not going to a Godzilla movie for like a major plot twist that I'm gonna revere.
Also, the new one has both the new King Kong movies had both John Goodman and Tom Hiddleston. So, it's a pretty combination.
He's a John Goodman stan.
I'm a John Goodman stan.
Yeah. No shame there. And he's stannable. He's definitely stannable.
As far as we know. Thrown in that caveat
ellipses
just in case. I think we've already answered this question, but Frank asks, who's the best NWSL ownership group?
Yeah, I mean, you have to like KC, right?
I can't not pick KC here. Like, I know a lot of fun, and this is something Becky brought up last week that just kind of blew my mind, where like Gotham gets a lot of love, but they still have the same ownership that kept them running to the ground for years. So I mean, like, they're changing their ways, but I think
most of the new ownership groups are pretty exciting, just when you consider what they're doing, like with Angel City and with San Diego as well. Like, I think they're kind of on that same path.
I think San Diego's kind of in the same realm, not the same realm as Kansas City, because they've had more time to do it, but Sacramento fell apart and San Diego had to pop in. I think what's helping San Diego and Angel City, I think Angel City's done a great job since they rolled out. They've had a good they've had a crock pot kind of boil where they could get to this point over a good amount of time. They're really benefiting from all the horrible press that the other teams are getting because they haven't had time to screw up like that yet.
The bar is super low right now, guys. Like,
don't have a scandal within your front office.
Yeah,
that's it.
What team didn't have a scandal like last year? What team didn't have one?
KC
was it. The only scandal they had is that they sucked, but that was also because they had 2 months to start playing.
I think it was kind of expected too. Like, it wasn't really a scandal because everyone knew that team, like, especially
that's as close
in
the
lineup of the Challenge Cup. Like,
now I'm trying to think. I don't think Gotham had a major scandal.
Well, the Freya Coombe, why do you let your coach?
Yeah, that's true.
Why do you let your coach interview and leave mid-season? Why don't you wait till the end of the season for that? And then plus all the stuff that came from Gotham before. I mean, they rebranded.
Previous ownership group,
same owner, like it's the same people,
right? Yeah, they nailed the rebrand. I'll give them that.
No, I'll give them that. Orlando, their coach just up and quit on them halfway through the season. Now he's at Man United. Go figure. Houston Dash Houston Dash had the whole security guard issue with Sarah Gordon at the beginning of the season.
I mean, Portland is Portland.
Oh my God.
Carolina, Chicago.
Washington was the entire scandal for the most part.
Yeah, until Chicago was like, hold my beer.
Hold my Malort.
That's right.
OL Reign, do they have a major scandal?
Yeah, Fareed Ben-Stidi. He was a coach that they hired him knowing he had abuse allegations.
That's right.
Then there were allegations during the season, and they let him just leave on his own until the Meg Linehan article came out, and then it was sprinkled in that weekend.
There have just been so many that I've forgotten about that. I'd forgotten about that one. I think it's
Did anything happen in Orlando?
It was the coach, Mark Skinner.
Okay.
Mark Skinner left.
Of the scandals, I guess it's probably one of the lesser ones.
And they changed ownership halfway through the season. The Wilfs came in and bought them. But that's not a scandal.
That's not like a scandal, though. That's not negative.
No, I wouldn't.
As poorly as they've run the Vikings over the years, yeah, that's probably
maybe it is negative.
And also, if we're talking about best ownership groups, we mentioned Angel City. I tend not to ever say anything negative about Serena Williams.
No.
So I think by default, like, she's the GOAT. So, it's kind of hard not to at least put
I am
them
kind of impressed with just everyone they've managed to get to want to be associated with that club. I think that's an impressive aspect that is maybe underlooked a bit.
I think we're the only 3 people in the country who aren't invested in Angel City.
I think so. I'm starting to think so.
Oh, you're not?
Oh, God. Right. Well, me and Justin are the only 2 that. Well, they have Sarah Gordon over there. They have Savannah McCaskill. It's hard not to. It's hard. When they come to Racing Louisville, I'm waiting for the NWSL season schedule, which will come out 2 days before the season starts. I'm gonna go down to Louisville when Angel City comes to town. I think they're going to draw people any city they go to. I think Angel City is going to grab a lot of attention.
I was going to say I'm kind of thinking about going up to Cary when they come to town. See if Serena shows up.
We got to see when that is.
I don't know if she'll be traveling with the team though.
especially of all places to Cary, North Carolina. No offense to the good folks of Cary, North Carolina, but
I want to see Sarah again. I want to see Sarah Toussaint again. We talk about ownership having rough thing. The Sarah owners aside, yeah, that's definitely true. But I mean, Sarah Spain was great, and talking to Sarah down in North Carolina, she was fantastic. One of the owners that joined the team last year, and she's spoken out against things that the team has done and everything like that. I want to go down and see her again. She was nice.
Also, I'm always open to bribes. And she gave me a gift card to the merch stand, and I bought a scarf.
Oh yeah. So
I mean,
I'm glad I listened to that podcast. I'm glad I listened to that 2 Cents FC podcast episode, because if I didn't listen to it, I would have talked to an owner of the team and then just la-di-da, let's walk in the stadium, Bryant. I'm glad that I listened to that much better podcast, which describes every podcast, but still.
Would Casey? I assume this is a reference to something. I don't know. This is from Soccer Noob. Would Casey ever consider a senior team, whether competitive or just halftime show, called Casey Archaic?
Get it? Because Casey Current,
yeah,
and Casey Archaic. It's timing.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, I read it twice. Yeah, I read it. I read it twice.
The best jokes are the ones you have to explain.
Always are. Always are.
Oh, I liked it, and also seeing the old segment that you had on your show, Soccer Noob, about stolen mail, where they steal questions that other shows get and they answer the questions. That's an ingenious segment, by the way. But I do like the joke. Once I got it. That might speak more about me, though, than your humor. It might speak more about me understanding jokes, though.
So this is a good question. I think this gets the question of the week. Question of the week not here from Frank. If you were creating an NWSL team, where would you put them? What's the color scheme? What's the logo crest look like in a very general sense? And what's something special you'd want to do about the stadium? Bourbon slushies is the answer to what I would do at the stadium.
Bourbon slushies, yes, please. Who wants to take the first stab? Stab. I'll go first. Thank you, everybody.
I was thinking real hard.
I would obviously pick Columbus because I want a local team. I would cover the crap out of that team. I would write all the articles I would write about that team. Columbus would be awesome. I wouldn't want it to be black and gold, just because I think that I don't want to turn into Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh's like every team has to be black and gold just so we know which city we have to root for in this game. I don't want to be Pittsburgh.
Otherwise, you wouldn't know. Yeah, who's gonna root for the Pirates
people
anyway?
in Pittsburgh are like, if they're not wearing black or yellow, I have no idea who Yins are on the field. That was my Pittsburgh accent, which started as a Southern accent, but I added the Yins. So
well,
they saved it at the end.
they call it Pennsyltucky for a reason.
True that. So I would think a good strong blue. I think a good strong blue, maybe like a blue and white. I know these are Chelsea colors, but you can't do anything red in Columbus because that's Ohio State. And it was like, go Buckeyes. I would pick a blue, something along those lines. I don't have like a nickname that I would choose. I can't think of a nickname, but it would be here in Columbus because I don't want to travel anywhere.
That's a good shout. I was going to disqualify St. Louis. I was like, that's too much of Homer opinion, but now I see that rule's broken.
Why not? Let me go to St. Louis. Why not?
Why not? I mean, so Carolyn Crystal Betts, when she took over ownership, had talked about exploring an NWSL franchise at some point. So I would bet like sometime in the future, whenever expansion does happen, that they would try. But
Dee Haslam invested a lot of money into the WNBA. I'm like, come on, Dee, do something like because Dee Haslam, who by the way is richer than Jimmy Haslam, but everyone thinks Jimmy Haslam's like the big like one run the show. Dee Haslam is richer than Jimmy Haslam. I would love her to put a WNBA or an NWSL team right here in Columbus. Please do that, Dee. Please do that.
I'm gonna put a women's team in Miami. Second time we've brought up Miami on the show. And I'm going to do what Enter Miami should have done, which is really embrace the like 80s pastel colors. Like they do this like black kit with just a little bit of pink. Nah, we're reversing that. We're going like pink. We're going pink and black attack like Bret the Hitman Hart back in the day. Yeah. But we're embracing those like Miami Vice. Like,
I've appreciated that the Heat had done that like a lot in recent years. They've really like leaned into the Miami Vice colors, and it's freaking amazing.
The Heat ones are awesome too, with like the teal and the
they're beautiful.
Yeah, no, all day. Like also teal, like I mean, I'm in Charlotte, like the Hornets have that teal color on their uniforms. It's great. I mean, hell, that the Current has that like teal.
The color and red is kind of
I like it. Yeah, it's a good color scheme.
At first it throws you off, but then you're like, I can jive with this. I can live with this. This is nice. It's different.
As somebody that is now a Hornets fan, but also grew up rooting for the Jacksonville Jaguars, like I'm a fan of teams that have teal in their color scheme. So
you can only get away with that in the South. You can't get away with that in the North. Like you can't have like a teal. Cleveland is teal. You're like, really? I don't drive around Cleveland thinking. I mean, this is teal. This is a teal city.
I guess here's a good question: is Kansas City, or do you consider them the South or the Midwest?
No, they're Midwest.
So you got a Midwest team with teal.
Like I think a lot of people think of Missouri as the South, but there's like a distinct line, like right under Highway 70, that you start hearing Southern accents and.
Okay.
I think Arkansas kind of ends this. I think it ends the South, and then you swing around. Texas is its own country. I think the South kind of ends at Alabama and Mississippi. I think Louisiana is its own thing too. I think Louisiana is its own culture too.
Having spent some time in Southern Missouri, I would say that Southern Missouri is very Southern, just in general.
You could say that about parts in Ohio. You could say that about Southern parts in Ohio.
Basically. Any state, once you get out of the big cities,
right?
Like driving around, like getting out of, I'm from very rural Florida, but when we drive out to, in Ohio, say out to like Pataskala or something, like out outside.
Why would you ever drive to Pataskala, Bryant?
That the apple orchard thing I think is out there.
Right.
Lind Fruit Farm.
Yeah.
I might as well have been back in like rural North Florida, like hell, even down to the people with Confederate flags in Ohio. for some reason. It's like, oh, okay.
Do you know history at all?
I drive past one all the time going home from work. Like I drive past one anytime I go like west of my house, which is all the time because east is no man's land. I see that house with a Confederate flag. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do it. I can't do it.
All right. So a few more questions here. We got Robbie Rogers. Come on, Robbie. Asked, this is a Kansas related question, Wildcats or Jayhawks?
I mean, I'm not a Kansas sports fan. I'm very much Mizzou. My family went to Mizzou and stuff, so I've grown up rooting for them over any Kansas sport or Kansas University at all.
The fight.
So I can't answer that. I guess
the fight in Chase Daniels.
I guess I would pick K-State over KU just because KU is a mortal enemy. Yeah.
Because they win. Yeah. I know how that feels. Yeah. Winning teams, you can't.
Yeah, Mizzou has never won anything, so pretty okay.
give me K-State for another reason too. Another color that I love in team logos and
purple and silver.
Purple. Yeah, that purple and silver is sharp.
My high school was purple and gold. Purple and gold. Let's go Bears. Polar Bears.
My wife's was also purple and gold. It was the Bulldogs.
Yeah. Polar bear could kill a bulldog, but no big deal.
I mean, mine was here's one that's really original. Mine was orange and black. Guess what we were?
Tigers.
We were the Tigers.
I live next to Massillon Tigers. Sorry, Massillon Tigers, big high school football name in the country. Only if you really, really, really care about high school football.
I do not.
Perfect. No. Samesies. Justin, I interrupted you, which is the greatest thing to do as a host. What were you saying?
No, I was saying we were green and white and we were the Dragons.
That's badass.
Yeah.
A little UAB action there. It feels like UAB, right? They're the Dragons down there in University of Alabama, Birmingham.
Yeah, I always dug it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dragon sweet.
Yeah, so we're going K Thomas, I assume you're going K-State with this one too. You're not one of those rock chalk.
That's like the worst thing about living in Kansas. Sorry, I interrupted you. I did it.
No, I had nothing.
Kansas City is very much a KU town, so I think that's why he's asking it. But if KU is playing in the Big 12 tournament, you can't go downtown that day, and it's not fun.
College sport, I love covering college basketball. I used to love basketball as a kid, and I started covering the Ohio State women's team this year, and I can see why people love college basketball now. But I really don't have a collegiate rooting interest. I like Penn State because I went there, but even then, I feel like I gravitate more towards I pay attention to the hockey team. I pay attention to stuff like that. It's just weird. I don't know. I don't.
So, couple of Kansas City food questions here. Best barbecue in KC?
So I usually have a top 3 because it's hard for me to pick a favorite, and they're all kind of a little bit different. So my favorite to take my family to, because it's kind of has a little more area and I guess it is my favorite. Slaps, which is kind of in Kansas City, Kansas, but it's right off of downtown. It's kind of in a little shack. Usually have to wait a long time to get in, but that is probably my favorite. I also like Q39, which is more of a sit down barbecue place. It's more of a fancier inside, but delicious nonetheless. And then I don't know, what would be my third? There's one we tried recently called Chef J, and it's only open 2 days a week, and it's relatively new. And that one was really good. It's in West Bottoms, which is our industrial area, right outside downtown. I guess those would be my top 3 right now, but sometimes it changes. It's not a constant barbecue rating. That's where I would go. If you went right now to Kansas City, that's what I'd recommend.
Brian, this is a conversation for you, Brian, not for me.
Not the super, because I know a little bit about, I'm a barbecue guy. I love barbecue.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember what the big ones are in Casey, the really famous ones.
There's Gates. Gates is okay. I didn't like Gates much. Arthur Ryan's really good. They're definitely up there for me. I just haven't had them in a while, so they're not top of mind.
I think I saw Bourdain go to Oklahoma Joe's one time.
Oklahoma Joe's is good. Yeah, that's in the top. It's hard. It's hard to make.
I read a book about Kansas City barbecue. called Thin Blue Smoke, and it was a Kansas City barbecue, but it was a good book. That's the only thing I can contribute to the conversation. Back to you.
I've been to Kansas City. Actually, I did eat barbecue. We didn't go to a restaurant. They had it catered, and I don't know where it was from. And I didn't really leave my hotel other than to go to the airport. So, because it was like an insurance sales conference for an old job I had. I did see Arrowhead and the Kauffman Stadium where the Royals play. So
yeah,
that was cool.
Right there, looking into the highway.
Go Guardians. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm not a Royals fan. So,
so you're probably a Cards fan, right?
Yeah. I'm born and raised from St. Louis, so I'm always
Ryan's mortal enemy.
We can't talk about this.
That's why I have a hard time supporting your Chicago sports franchise.
That's completely fair.
I had to jump through a lot of hoops as a Cleveland fan.
Yeah.
To cover, or not to cover, but to support the Red Stars. But the ownership's making it really easy to change my mind. Really easy.
I'll never forget. I had my dad's from Chicago. He's a huge Cubs fan, and raised me as a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
And he drove. We have family in Hannibal.
Okay.
And so to get there, I guess he had to drive through St. Louis. And he said he's driving down the highway, like one of the interstates or something, through St. Louis. And he said he just held up the middle finger the whole time he drove through the city or something. Just
it's kind of funny. We had a lot of track meets because for some reason there's just a ton of indoor tracks in central Illinois and going up to Chicago just because of all the small schools out there. And there's a clear line of where Cardinals fans are and Cubs fans begin. And you can start to get a little mingling in the middle there, and then once you get to Springfield, it's all Cubs fans.
Good times. In honor of today, since it's 2/22/22 Tuesday, and I'm drinking a margarita.
Hey.
What's the best place to get tacos and margaritas in Kansas City?
There's actually a surprisingly amount of good Mexican restaurants, just because we have a large Mexican and Latino population in general. Where have we been going? It's hard to say. If you go, there's a Southwest Boulevard is a kind of famous street off of downtown, and there's a row of 5 or 6 restaurants, and they're all just fantastic. And I would just say that whole strip right there is where you should go. And there's also something called the KCK, or Kansas City, Kansas Taco Trail, and it has basically just loads of everything you could want. So it's hard to make a decision because there's a lot of good Mexican food in the area that I have tried.
So here's that question, by the way, was courtesy of my good buddy Felix, who I share Simpsons memes with on the regular.
Good friend.
Final question. This is the most important question. This is only for you. We're not going to, I guess we can make predictions if we want to. What is your season prediction for the KC Current?
I think they're going to be on the fringes of the playoffs. I'm not going to go as hard to say that they will be a playoff team, but I think there will be a huge improvement on last year just because of their acquisitions, having a more fluid system that they're all pretty familiar with, and just another year progression Victoria Pickett and the other players they have on their team. So
I think you're being pessimistic. I think
they're probably.
I think they're a playoff. I think they're an absolute playoff team, and I think they're maybe not a title favorite by any means, but I think they're probably a top 6-ish. I think they're a comfortable playoff team. I would say in that 4 to 6 range. I think I could see them ending up somewhere in that range.
That's probably right. Yeah.
There's been so many changes across the league, bringing in 2 new teams, and the way that other teams were trading to save themselves from expansion drafts. And outside of maybe, I think the teams that stayed pretty strong. I wouldn't even put Portland. I think OL Reign are going to be really strong this year. Portland lost Lindsey Horan, Crystal Dunn. I think Gotham, I think they're going to have some. They'll be around the mid. They'll be around the same as they were last year. I think middle of the table. I think Kansas would be in the same area as like a Gotham, because there's still growing pains. I think they still have to, like you mentioned earlier, Justin, getting on the same page and putting all
it's
these
a brand new
pieces
team
together.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but
it's gonna
luckily
take some time to gel.
so many teams in the NWSL are brand new. Like Chicago lost two of our best defenders. Like Julie Ertz, I know she hadn't played much. She got injured in the first regular season match, but she was, at least on the field, one of the best players on the field when she was there. Sarah Gordon's gone. That's going to be huge to try to fill that void. So the teams that are going to be worse than you, that's a good way to put it. Houston's going to be worse. Orlando is going to be worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Those are at least like two. I think San Diego is going to be worse. Angel City, who knows how long it's going to be before they come together and kind of mesh and all that stuff. I think Portland is going to dip a good amount. So I think Kansas City will make the playoffs. They might be a lower seed, but I think
you're selling me on it.
I think they'll make the playoffs. Chicago, we haven't even talked about Chicago because that's not what we're doing latly. But if they miss the playoffs, I wouldn't be. Having Malpew and Kealia are going to probably save them more times than they need to. They needed to in the past seasons.
There's a lot of narratives going into the season. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. The NWSL Narrative Women's Soccer League.
That's right. That's right.
Trademarked.
That's hashtag BAMFam. That's ours now. You better not steal it. Well,
we own that.
It's ours now. Back up. And then they're going to rebrand the league anyway. So they're not even going to probably be the NWSL anymore. That shows our luck, right? Well, Justin, you're lucky too, because the ringer is done, the hot seat is done. We've turned the Inquisition lights
it's getting
off.
To me.
We really appreciate you catching us up on all things KC Current. We can't wait to read more of your coverage going into the season, and also we can't wait to sleep on your couch when we come into town for KC matches.
Sounds good.
We have it on recording. He said that he would let us stay at his house.
Yeah, my cat does stalk everyone that sleeps over, though, so you're going to have to deal with that.
I have two. I can deal with it.
I'll get a hotel. That's okay. Thank you, Justin, for being on the show. You're welcome back at any time.
Absolutely.
Thanks, buddy.
And there you go.
All right.
That was fun. I really appreciate that. I'm sorry again.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
For the link or the lack thereof. I appreciate you overcoming that. And this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was nice to chat again.
Yeah.
We should do this more often on each other's podcasts.
I think we should. I'm really kind of I don't envy your show just because you have a team that doesn't exist yet. And you're trying to fill for a year plus, like over 2 years.
That's why we do every 2 weeks and sometimes even longer than that, just because once the season gets started, there's plenty to talk about just with like global football in general. But when you don't have the local team that you're like gearing up to support, we didn't have a lot of news for a long time.
Yeah.
So
you have STL too now, right? You're gonna have STL.
Yeah.
So you'll have them this season.
Yeah. So they released that roster and look like there should be some guys that they're planning on bringing up to the main team too next year. So
that's awesome.
There's a lot to watch there.
Yeah. Apparently they're gonna stream all the matches on the MLS League site too, so you'll be able to watch all of them. Yeah. So at least you can start your St. Louis fandom, and you can tell everybody, I was a fan before the MLS team started. So that's I mean, you're probably I think I've said this before. You're the first probably St. Louis MLS podcast out there. So you started it. People will look back at you, and you'll be the beacon, of the foundation, the standard. But no, let us know, and vice versa. I think as the season goes on, maybe as like their big matches for Kansas City, or maybe if Arnhem sells the team and we could have, on before Chicago plays Kansas City, I think that would be a lot of fun too. Yeah, I'm down for that. Sounds good. Oh yeah, man. Well, we appreciate it. We're gonna record our intro real quick and then call it a night. Thank you for spending the time. So you guys got another hour and a half probably. I think with the guest stuff we might trim it to like an hour and 15.
Okay.
Oh man, have a good night, Justin. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
you too, man. See you
Take
guys.
care, man.
Talk to you later.
Man, what a fantastic conversation we just had, huh?
Yeah, Justin, these interviews are great. I think we should have done this a lot sooner, bringing on more fans of other teams, content creators of other teams, because the conversations we have are a lot of fun and they're enlightening, and it makes me excited for a league that honestly I was not very excited about for the last few weeks. This is finally not in the Chicago row. I'm not excited really about that. I'm excited about the league itself to start back up and really watch these teams. And we got even more to come. We have Gotham coming up next week. We're going to take a little week off from the NWSL previews because Robbie Rogers is going to be on here for his birthday. We're going to do a Robbie Rogers birthday special. Bryant will be out of commission that night because you have family coming into town.
Yeah, we've got some friends coming to town, so
Yeah,
folks staying with us. It's gonna be a good time. So yeah, I'll be off that week, but I know you and Robbie will have a fantastic conversation, fantastic show.
we're gonna do like a college basketball episode, just because that's what you've come to know and love about Prime Me is our hard hitting basketball um, critique. But we're both going to different conference tournaments. He's going to be at the SEC tournament, and I'm going to be at the Big Ten tournament. So we're just going to break down our experiences and talk about any of the fun that we had doing that. So and it's also going to be his birthday, so we're going to do some birthday fun. But this series has been great. I would love for us to find somebody who can cover any team. Like I'd love for us to find people for every team, because I would love to hear a lot more about like Angel City and San Diego and those teams out west. We have one lined up with Portland to talk to somebody who writes for the Portland SB Nation site. I need to find more people. We even on the horn with Sarah Toussaint to get her on here to talk about the Courage. I mean, an owner of the team to come on and talk about the Courage. So I think if you all stick around, we'll have a lot more of these really fun episodes coming at you.
And just remember, the more guests we have, the less you actually have to hear us talk.
Preach.
And that's
Preach, Brother Caves.
We know that's what you're really all about when you're listening to Bryant and me. Speaking of Bryant and me, we are on social medias at Bryant and me. That's on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram is not one we use as much as Twitter, but we do have some content on there from time to time. We definitely always appreciate you interacting with us. Give us a follow. Shoot us your Ask Bam questions. As you can see, we do read those every week on the show. We really have gotten to where that's become our favorite part, I think, of the show. Like mostly because that's a lot less work that we have to do.
Oh God, yeah. Produce our show for us.
Like you guys just give us the hashtag content and we just go for it. So follow Thomas. He's at one Thomas Costello on both Twitter and Instagram. You can read all the fantastic things that he's writing right now for Massive Report. He's going to be doing some writing for Massive Report as the season gets going here, and covering Ohio State women's basketball with the Big Ten tournament and beyond.
Yeah.
So a lot of good stuff there.
Go for it. Yeah, why not? If you have time to fill, need to fall asleep, pull up some of my articles.
They're really good. You'll really enjoy them. You can follow me on Instagram.
They're the cure for insomnia. That's what they are.
Hey, sometimes I need that. I'm at Pickle Chip on Instagram. Replace the I's with ones. Please share the show with your friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, enemies, random people that you meet on the street, just pretty much anybody. We always really do appreciate that. Leave a 5-star review wherever you get fine and not so fine podcasts. We always appreciate those as well. And please, as always, please take care of yourself. Please take care of your physical health as well as your mental health. It's very important. You are important. You matter. We matter. All of us matter. And it's really important that you can continue to take care of that, the mental side of things. So we love every single one of you. Hope you have a great week. Enjoy Christmas. Enjoy doing that responsibly. Yes. Of course, but have a lot of fun at Christmas for me this week, guys. Bye.
Adios.